Hello Algebra 1 students. Today we are going to do a review for Chapter 4. Chapter 4 goes over systems. So the first thing we're going to go over is solving the system by graphing. So when you're graphing, you want to make sure that each equation is in slope-intercept form first. So it has to be in the y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to look at both my equations. Y is by itself on both of those, so we're ready to go. So let's start by graphing the first equation, y equals x plus 2. So we're going to start with the y-intercept. That would be the b. So our y-intercept for this equation is 2. So we're going to start at the origin and go up 2 on the y-axis and plot our point. All right, and now we're going to find the slope. The slope is the m. So our slope for this equation is whatever's in front of the x. So there's nothing there, so we understand it to be 1. So our slope is going to be 1 over 1. Up 1, and then to the right 1. Up 1, to the right 1. And then that will give us our straight line. I'm going to go backwards here, down and left, so I can complete my line here. All right, and then we're going to do the next equation. So we're going to graph the second one here, starting again at the y-intercept. So we're going to start at positive 1 on the y-axis. And now our slope is 2. To make that into a fraction, we can say that's 2 over 1. So up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And then I can make my line there. Okay. And then the answer is where the two lines intersect. So they're intersecting at this point right here. So that's over 1 on the x-axis, and then up 3 on the y-axis. So the point here, this is the point 1, 3, and that is my answer. So the second way to solve systems is by what's called substitution. So number 2 deals with that, solving by substitution. Substitution means trading one thing for another. So we're going to trade the value of y here. So it says y equals 4x. We're going to take that 4x and substitute or trade it in for the y in the other equation here. So this equation becomes negative 3x plus, but instead of y, we're substituting y for what y equals 4x. So we're going to replace or trade this y for 4x. And then fill in the rest of the equation equals the negative 4. So now we can solve for x because we only have one variable. Our only variable is x here. So I can combine my like terms. Negative 3x plus 4x gives me 1x, positive 1x, or just x. And then bring down the rest equals negative 4. So we see that x equals negative 4. So now we just need to find y. So we'll take this negative 4 and we'll plug it in for this x, or substitute or trade this x for what x equals negative 4 here. So y equals 4 times what x is, and remember x is negative 4, so 4 times negative 4, which is negative 16. So now we know what x is and we know what y is, so we can put them together as an ordered pair. So negative 4, negative 16 would be your answer there. And that's called substitution. The last method is called elimination. So solving systems by elimination. So let's review. We've gone over graphing, substitution, and now the last method, elimination. So in elimination, you want it in standard form. So you want an x plus a y and then equal a constant. X plus y equals a constant. So when you see it in that form, in standard form there, elimination is usually the best method. So to eliminate a variable, you need it to be the same coefficient but opposite. So the easiest one to eliminate in this problem would be x. So I see x and 3x. So in order for it to eliminate, this top x needs to be a -3, because -3 plus 3 is 0, and that would eliminate it. So we're going to multiply this top one by -3, and you're going to distribute that -3 through the whole equation. So -3 times x is -3x. -3 times 4y is -12y. And then lastly, -3 times 5 is -15. And now the second equation is fine just as it is, so we'll just write it right underneath it. And now see what happens. These x's cross out, they eliminate, because -3x plus 3x is 0. So we're going to add these together. Those eliminated, those crossed out. Now we're going to do -12y plus 2y, that would be -10y. And then -15 plus 35 would be 20. And now we can just solve for y by dividing by -10. Those cancel out, and y equals -2. So we know what y is. We still need to find x. So we're going to take this -2 and substitute it in for the y up here. You can use either equation, top or bottom, doesn't matter. I'm going to choose the top one. I'll rewrite it here. And then I'm going to take this -2 and replace it for y. So x plus 4 times, substitute that -2 in. And then now you're going to just go ahead and solve it. So 4 times -2 is -8. And then get x by itself, so add the 8 to both sides. 5 plus 8 is 13. So there's your x value. Okay, so put them together. Final answer, put x first. 13 comma -2 would be the answer there. All right, next we have graphing inequalities. So now we're going to look at inequalities. So you graph these inequalities just like you would if there was an equal sign. You're still wanting it to be the slope-intercept form, so mx plus b. So let's check it. It's already y by itself, so it's in the right form. So we're going to start with the b. We're going to start with the 1. That's your y-intercept. And then your slope is -2/3. So down 2/3 would be your second point. And now you have to decide if it's going to be a dotted or a solid line. If it's a less than or greater than, it's going to be a dotted line. If it's less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, that is a solid line. So this is just a greater than, so that would make a dotted line. All right, and then there's one more step for graphing inequalities, and that's the shading. So this depends on what your inequality sign is. If it's less than, you're going to shade below. If it's greater than, you're going to shade above. So here's your line. It's greater than, so I'm going to shade above this line. And then that's it, you're done. So now we're going to use that method of graphing, and we're going to apply it to a system. So now we have a system of inequalities. So let's start with this first one, x minus 4y less than 12. That is in standard form, that is not in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to rewrite it over here. And I'm going to get y by itself so it can be in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I want to do is move the x over. So I'm going to subtract the x from both sides. And then my last step would be to divide everything by this -4. Okay, remember when you divide by a negative, you have to flip the sign when you're dealing with inequalities. So I just divided by a -4, so that's going to flip this less than sign to greater than. Then a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so this becomes 1/4. You can say that's a 1x there, positive 1/4 x. And then 12 divided by -4 is -3. Okay, so we're going to start here by graphing or plotting our y-intercept at -3. And then the slope is 1/4, so we're going to go up 1/4. And it's going to be a dotted line because this is greater than, there's no equal to underneath it, so that gives it the dotted line. And it's greater than, so that means we're shading above. All right, now we have to do the same thing for this equation here, the second equation. Luckily, this is already in slope-intercept form, so we can go straight to graphing. We're going to plot our y-intercept, the b, which is 1, positive 1, on the y-axis. And then your slope is -1/2. So you're going to go down 1/2. Put a couple points there. Okay. And then it's going to be a solid line this time because of that equal to underneath there, because it's less than or equal to. So solid line. And then my shading is going below because it's less than. And that's it. That would be your final answer. And that concludes your review.